Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Linda.
I'm Charles.
Hey, I'm Seth.
I'm Chris.
And today we're going to be talking about sci-fi news, stuff that's coming out, sci-fi, fantasy, etc. Got a number of shows that are either out or on the verge of coming out. And so we thought we'd kind of go over some of those. And I think let's just kick it off with Wheel of Time. We're like 5 episodes into that. And Charles has seen a very little bit of that, or not much, Charles?
Just very little.
Very little. Linda and Chris and I are, I think, up to date. You're up to date, right, Chris?
Yep.
Seth hasn't seen it yet, so we can spoil it for him.
Well, I don't know how much you'll spoil because I've read the first 5 books. So
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
I am curious to find out how close the books follow the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you necessarily where they fall in the books, but yeah, we could talk about some of it.
Yeah. So anyway, it's pretty good. I like it so far. It's I think it's got some great world building in there. I like the details in the sets and the characters. It's a fascinating world, and
no, that is not a Dementor.
that is not a Dementor. No, that's a shade.
Yeah.
Just kind of looks like one.
Fade, not a shade.
Fade, yes.
And looks like they just have mouths and no eyes, which would be kind of weird.
Yeah.
How do you see where the food is?
Magic.
It's a magical being.
Okay.
Magic. I mean,
Yeah.
you're creepy with that.
Right.
So
Yeah. So what do
Bill-
you think, Seth or Chris?
Yeah, I like it so far. I agree with you. It's got great world building. They're actually doing a pretty good job of kind of getting us to be pretty attached to the characters.
Yeah.
I will say, not having read the books, I don't have enough world building from the history of where some of these people come from in the lands abroad. So you have the shoot, I forgot what they're called. All the magic users,
The
basically.
Aes Sedai?
Yeah, the Aes Sedai. They don't explain all the different groups and the colors well initially. Now,
Right.
I will say they are filling in those gaps as it goes. You're
Yeah.
learning about the history and their relationships with how that all works. But for the characters that you do get introduced to, this hits the ground running. I suspect that it's such a big world, it could be very boring and dull to kind of fill in all those gaps to start out. So
Yeah.
having said that, I do think as the series progresses, they'll start filling in those gaps. They basically, where needed, where it needs additional context, they fill it in. But for the short part, each one of these characters you see here on the screen, you know enough about them to know what's going on, which is great. I'm enjoying it 100%. There's parts that hit you in the feels. There's parts that make you go, yes. You know, there's parts that like, oh no, he's gonna kill him. All that kind of stuff is all in there, and it's great. It's got suspense. It's got a little bit of everything. I like how they depict how the Aes Sedai channel their powers. This particular part in the story focuses on Moraine and her right hand man, Lan. What's his name? Mandragoran. I can't barely pronounce their awesome names they have in this, but they set off on a journey to find the Dragon Reborn, So every once in a while, there's like this almost world-ending type of event that occurs or whatever, and there's this dragon reborn, I guess, that kind of pops up on the map that has great power that can either make or break the world. And it's about time that they go find this person. So that's what they set out to do. And they come across a group of young adults, if you will, where they're not sure which one it is, but they all kind of fit the right age group, around 20 years old. And they're thinking that one of them is the dragon reincarnated, if you will. And so this is about their journey, and they have to get to a certain part of the land heading east towards this tower, where they can basically be, I won't say analyzed, but they'll be reviewed, and they'll kind of figure out what they need to do with them. And this is about their journey there.
Yeah, and I in the first episode, one of the things that I thought was neat was the song that they sang. So actually, Linda's put a picture up on the screen now that shows the Army of Light, which is sort of a religious group now known to those of us that watch the show for their cruelty.
Yes.
But anyway, what I thought was neat is in the first episode, rather than have a long, detailed exposition of some of the history, they approach it from kind of a unique perspective in that they're escaping from this army of evil, these kids, and Moraine, who's an Aes Sedai female magic user, and her warder, basically a defender, that Lan Mandragoran, which Chris mentioned a while ago.
Yep.
And they're on horseback heading to the safety of the Aes Sedai Tower. And as they're walking along, suddenly one of them starts singing, and the other kids all join in, and they sing this song. And they finish singing it, and the Aes Sedai lady Moraine, she asks them, that's a great song, and it's good that you sing it and remember it. Do you know what it means? And none of them did. They thought it was kind of a story about an individual, whereas it was more of a story about a city and the siege of this city. And so she ended up explaining it to him, but the way they approached it was really good. I thought it was entertaining, and it provided some needed detail about the history and why things are kind of the way they are. So
yeah, and I'll add on to that real quick. There's another scene as well where Nynaeve is doing a prayer, I believe, in front of Lan after he was found praying one morning, and she was reiterating something that's in an old tongue that she didn't necessarily know what it meant, but her parents had always said it to her, and it was the last thing that she ever heard them say. And when she repeats it back to him, he actually gives her information on what that saying meant and everything like that. So it alludes to more history. So they do, as I was saying, like they do bring up opportunities to kind of fill in the gaps, and they do it in a very appropriate manner that makes sense.
Yeah,
so.
it's a very organic way, I think, of doing it, which is nice. And there's also, I don't know if you've watched this as well, but there is an animated companion piece to Wheel of Time. But I will tell you that getting to the animated companion piece and watching it is sort of akin to Bilbo's trek to Mordor. Yeah.
What parts of the internet did you have to go through?
Well, you can only get to it.
Wow.
You can only get to the animated segments on Amazon Prime. And only if you're using the Amazon Prime app. So if you go to the website, go to Amazon Prime, you won't get there. So you have to be using the app. And then you have to actually start an episode. And if you want to watch all of they put one out every week, and they're about a 5 to maybe 7 minute animated segment. It gives you some of the history of the thing. And so if you want to watch now all 5, you have to actually start the real episode 5. And then once it's past the commercial bits at the beginning, you pause the show And then when it's paused, you go up and you click on the X-ray button. And then once you're into the X-ray, then you tab over to additional content. And then you go down the additional content, and then you can find the animated thing, and then you can click on it. But if you do that on a phone, you cannot then Chromecast it to your TV.
What?
No. So I had to take my Chromebook, and I initially tried going to the website. Of course, that didn't work. I couldn't
Right.
find it all. And my friend Zach is like, well, here it is. It's on my phone. I can see it. I just can't Chromecast it. And I'm like, well, how did you get there? So we're trying to, oh my God, it was a nightmare. It probably took us
45
half an
minutes.
hour to get
Oh,
it.
no.
over.
It was more almost closer to an hour.
I'll
Yeah,
bet it
because-
works fine if you've got a Fire Stick or a Fire TV or something.
Oh
Probably.
yeah, probably. I don't know. Maybe.
That's
But
not-
yeah,
I
it was,
hate this sort. I
so-
hate that
so they-
sort of bullshit.
Yeah, so they buried the content under the X-ray, kind of like further reading thing, instead of
Yes.
just making it the
Yeah.
additional like content that's usually part of any series. You could just go
Right.
down and see the previews or
Yes.
whatever. They
Yes.
buried it in it. Wow,
Yes. And
that's awful.
it was horrible. And so I will say, so there's 5 of them that were out there now. We did manage to watch all 5. The first 2 were good, provided a lot of background. The second 2, we barely understood what they were about, let alone what impact they had to anything. And then the 5th one again was good. So I don't know, your mileage may vary if you want to watch those. Yeah, so there's a scene from one of the animated segments. And the other thing that annoyed the hell out of me is that when you go to watch the series and you go down to episodes and you can see all of the 5 episodes that are out there, but then they also have little like behind the scenes of each episode.
Oh, holy crap. Yeah, and their bonus content.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
There's a crap ton of stuff in
there's
here.
a crap ton of stuff there. But if you look, all of the behind the scenes episodes are all labeled episode 0.
What?
Yeah, so you don't know which one you've
And
seen.
so
which one
unless
haven't.
you look at the episode 0 and read the description, you have no clue as to what behind the scenes segment you're looking at.
Oh, this is awful.
Yes.
So I just pulled it up on my iPad, and I never would have seen this. This is actually genuinely kind of cool.
Yes.
From the aspect of all this, and they have all this additional origin stories and stuff in here.
Right.
That is kind of to your point, Seth. Like a lot of this is probably in the books, and like we were saying, they're bringing it up as needed, but it would be kind of cool to have some additional context. It's all here. That somebody put effort into making this.
Yeah.
And then Amazon just stuffed it.
Just
into a
buried
button
it.
that I rarely ever click.
Right. I have never gone into the X-ray before.
Neither have
On
I.
anything.
I just don't.
No.
But this is actually stuff I like to see.
Yeah. And like
Oh,
I
this
say,
is
3 of
awesome.
them were good and provided some good history and some background. The other 2 were just kind of strange. And it was like, okay, well, what good is this information? I don't see how it relates to anything. And maybe it'll come up later. I don't know. But
Wow,
it was
this is great. Yeah, it's got the history of the breaking of the world, which is
Yep.
what I was referring to. The Dragon Reborn, makes her
Yep.
break
Yeah,
the
that helped.
world. The White Tower background, all the information on where they were going east in their journey. Tons of photos and behind the scenes stuff, concept art.
yeah, there's a lot of very cool stills from the different episodes. So they've got like a gallery of still images you can go through and look at. And I will say that Aes Sedai Tower that they're in, I just love the architecture of that and the pillars and the way the rooms are designed and how they look.
Yeah, when they have the spoiler alerts, when the guy when the one Aes Sedai unfortunately gets killed, and the guy has to go take her ring and put it into the fire lava pit thing.
right.
The scenery that they had around that was pretty amazing, because you can just see how overarching it is, and you can look over the entire land and everything
Right.
from that scene. I honestly thought he might lose his mind and jump off the cliff there.
Yeah.
When I was watching that, I was like, boy, is
Right.
this where he decides he's done?
That's what
Right.
I thought.
Yeah, and to that point, so the ward that Bill mentioned earlier, these Aes Sedai, they have this special bond between them, and
Almost like a psychological or a mental bond, right?
yeah,
Because-
all the way down from psychological to physical. There's just this
Yeah.
bond there, a really strong bond, and when either one of them dies, it's very traumatizing for them. So much so that in the last episode that they aired Friday night was actually very depressing because it goes through this guy's pain of trying to deal with this, and ultimately he ends up taking his own life because he could not go on.
Yeah.
So the series is really good. Just be warned, was it 5 or 6?
Fifth, 5 episodes so far.
Fifth is a little depressing. It's good,
Yeah, and
but it's a
the-
little bit depressing.
I did watch the behind the scenes of episode 5, and that was really a good one to watch because there was information that I didn't catch in watching the episode. So there's the guy.
Yep,
Linda just
that's
put
the
up a
guy.
picture. I think that's his name's Steppen, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's a warder.
Mhm.
His Aes Sedai got killed in a battle. So he's mourning her loss, throwing her ring into this vat. And like you said, you thought he might have jumped off the top of the tower to kill himself because he was
Mhm.
like that. He was that distraught.
Yes.
But he didn't. And instead, he waited like a day before taking his own life anyway.
Yep.
But there was also, it wasn't just a sudden thing where he took his life. It was where he planned it out enough that he went to that Nynaeve and got that special tea mixture that was supposed to put you to sleep because he was said he was having trouble sleeping, and he used that to drug one of the other warders who was keeping him company and trying to prevent him from committing suicide
Right.
or doing something to himself. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, he could have just easily jumped off the tower at that point rather than go through all these,
Right.
detailed
He went through a lot of
machinations.
effort to, a lot of
Yes.
effort in pre-planning.
Yes.
But to that point, they did such a good job of
Mhm.
depicting how distraught this person was, to where we had the foresight to think, like, when is he going to kill himself?
Right.
Yes.
When you're
Right.
standing up there and you see
Mhm.
that cliff,
Right.
it's like, boy, does he just keep walking and take a leap off of that, or what?
Right.
And no, it turns out he gave some thought into it, and unfortunately he decided to take his own life. So
Well,
Yeah.
I think he was planning on trying to decide if he was going to be the guardian for that next girl who didn't have
Yes.
one yet.
yeah,
so-
and I was wondering that too. Well, maybe
Yeah.
we see this relationship build between him and
Right.
the other person. But there, I don't know, there might be something brewing between Lon and Nynaeve. So
Yes, that's
I
true.
don't know.
It's because that would be interesting because he would have to somehow figure out a way to leave Moraine, and
Yeah.
so that would be a weird thing. But the thing I alluded to earlier that I didn't catch in the initial episode that I caught in the behind the scenes was after Steppen kills himself. They have this sort of a beautiful ceremony. And this is talked about in the behind the scenes thing, where all of the warders and a number of the Aes Sedai that knew him are all in this room, and they're all dressed in white. And Steppen is dressed in white, and he's laying on a stone slab in the center of the
Mhm.
room. They're all kind of all around him in like a circle, and they ask Lan Mandragoran, if I said his name right, Mandragoran, to release his pain, release the pain
Mhm.
on behalf of all of them. And what I didn't catch was that the behind the scenes revealed is that it's sort of not not kosher for the wards to show pain or to release pain or show a bunch of emotion. And so what they do is when somebody passes like that, they pick one individual to release the pain on behalf of all of them. And so that's what he was doing there, screaming at the end.
Yeah, I got
And-
the sense of that. That's awesome that they had the additional content to kind of give you a little bit more context on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
the
they're
other
all
thing
too
that was,
proud.
what's that?
They're all too proud to release the pain themselves.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
I
don't
mean,
know if
maybe
proud's
it's
the right word.
yeah, it might be an honor.
Yeah,
to be
it's probably
selected.
more of honor. It's the relationship that they have in between Aes Sedai is very complex.
That sounds.
And I don't know if it's just, it could contribute to maybe some kind of weakness or something like that. But basically, you got to move forward, release the pain now and kind of move on kind of thing. You can't dwell on these things.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh.
And one of the memories of the 5th episode that will stick with me, I think, for a while, that I thought was just really, really cool was when they were burying the Aes Sedai that had died. And the Aes Sedai and all the warders that were part of that battle are carrying, and Stepan, he's in the lead carrying the body of his Aes Sedai, and they're all walking with him, and they're walking through the forest, and it's snowing, and they're walking to this center area, and there's all of these graves, and they're shallow graves, just about the depth of a body, really. And there's all of these bodies that are wrapped in white. They almost look like mummies laid in these shallow graves. And it's this giant circle. And it made me think, well, this is kind of like, this whole wheel of time thing, because everything is circles and wheels, but with the white bodies, there's the picture Linda posted, the white bodies laying there in this area of dirt. And then this light snow falling. It was really a very cool scene, the way they filmed. And according to the behind the scenes episode, that snowfall was natural. They hadn't expected it, and it just started happening. And they said, so they used it, and it just really enhanced the scene quite a bit.
Did, yeah.
The other thing that was cool there is that in this episode, you see one of the Aes Sedai, I don't know if she's singing or chanting, but she used, there's a, this is a real thing in the real world, where there's a sort of a chant or something that is done by women of a certain tribe or something. And it's at such a high tone that only women are able to do this. And so they had this chant happen by one of these female Aes Sedai, and they wanted to contrast that with the warder's funeral at the end, where they had that monk guy doing the real low tone. Yeah. And they said they had to get a special guy to do that because it's called throat singing. And they actually have 2 tones that are produced in their throat to make this low resonant tone. And it was just really neat the way they contrasted the two that I hadn't thought of until I saw the behind the scenes. So I would encourage anybody watching the episode, be sure to check out those behind the scenes, because there's a lot of cool information in there that you never even thought about.
So how much have they gone into the magic at this point?
Not a ton.
Right.
And they haven't covered the different Aes Sedai groups. Like I mentioned, there's a few different colors. You start to learn that they choose what house, if you will, that they ultimately end up belonging to. But they talk about how it was only meant for women, and there's men that have the power, and they kind of start to go insane. They hear voices in their head, and
they have to quiet them.
Yeah,
but they haven't gone into why.
Not a lot. No, they haven't gone into why.
Okay.
So, but like I said,
we know there's like the one power that they have to reach out and touch, and that's where their energies come from.
But yeah, they I suspect that they're still, like I mentioned, they're filling in the gaps as they go, as you kind of need to know it where it's relevant. And they're just kind of plowing forward. And that's where I was saying, Seth, you've read the books, so you
Yeah,
probably have a lot more context as to the roots of this.
I've read five
books.
of the books. There are way more that I haven't read because the books get a bit really sloggy around 5. And it's just a fight.
I heard there's like 14 books.
There are 14 books. And Robert Jordan actually died before he could finish the series. And I believe the last 3 books were written by Brandon Sanderson with his notes and help from Robert Jordan's wife.
Right. That's right. I did read that somewhere. And I was going to ask you about that because I think you're a big Brandon Sanderson fan anyway, right, Seth?
I am.
Yeah. So
But
yeah, I saw that
to,
and I thought, I have to ask Seth about that if he
to get to those books, I have to make it through another 5 to 7 of Robert Jordan's books. And I did just hit a point in book 5 where I was like, nope, I'm out.
Can't do it.
Because part of the problem with these huge sprawling fantasies, and I was kind of seeing this in the casting, is that the cast of characters is hundreds.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point in like book 5 where you're not really following around any of the characters you started off with. And Linda, I think you're muted.
It's okay. I'm trying to not have you hear the bird.
Well,
And there she goes.
But yeah, so like book 5 was just going into deep lore and characters you didn't know, and it took me right out.
Yeah, and I'll say, from my understanding, is the series, the TV series that they're adapting out of it, takes a smaller portion of that book series and tells the tale from that one arc.
Yeah, and I'm kind of trying to place where exactly in the series.
I was just trying to look that up.
So
because I don't know the book.
You haven't mentioned a whole lot about Rand, Matt, and Perrin.
So yeah, let me pull up their faces.
Yeah,
here.
so Egwene, Rand, Perrin, Matt, they're the ones that are all on the horses with Moraine heading to the White Tower.
Now, during the series, they get separated, and Matt and Rand end up going one direction, and
Perrin goes.
Egwene and Perrin go the other way.
Right, and
so that follows the books.
Yeah, and so as they go along their journeys, and they get separated. They continue to learn more about themselves, and Matt right now is probably the more troublesome out of all of the 4 or 5 of them, because and this is where I started getting a little bit confused. Is it that he has the powers that he seems to be losing his mind, or is it because he picked up that dagger in the one place that they were at that had that ruby on it? I thought maybe the dagger was maybe somehow possessed or carried something with it, like a curse.
Maybe or
driving him mad,
or he got some of that shadow stuff in him when
right, or that shadow stuff or something. So him, I'm not sure whether, because there's discussions that go on as to whether Matt is losing his mind like previous men have that have had the power.
Right.
That's almost what
to turn.
Yeah, it's almost what it seems like.
Yeah, he starts to turn vicious.
Right.
We suspect he even murdered a family.
Right.
So
that's why I think it's almost not madness in his case.
Yeah, I don't think
he's possessed.
Yeah, I think he's possessed personally, and I my theory was initially that it had something to do with the dagger that he found.
Yeah, that could be. I hadn't thought about that. I was just thinking that he got in that town they were in, or that empty city, the shadow things took him, got into him somehow.
Or is the fact that he brought, like, I thought maybe that dagger had something to do with it.
And it might,
because he took it out of there, it followed him.
Yeah, that's very
Because the
possible.
other shadow stuff, when it touched you, I think you turned to dust, right? That's what happened to the
Yes.
horses there.
Right.
But yeah, so that's a mystery. They haven't revealed exactly what's going on yet, but there's a lot of bad things happening around Matt.
Yep.
And it's coming down to, are they going to have to put him down, so to speak? So
Yeah. And then
That
in the last episode, it looks like that Perrin
yeah,
may be some sort of a wolf or werewolf type
yeah, some kind
creature.
of wolf or some kind of connection to wolves. I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty cool how that developed. So
Yeah.
through the series, he keeps interacting with these wolves, and you're not really sure why or what's going on there. And there's a scene where they're being tortured by the Army of the Light, because they're such great people.
Right.
And you see his eyes kind of light up, and eventually these wolves come out to save them, and cause a distraction, if you will, so they can escape. And during that instance, we see two things. We see Egwin channel and try to use her powers, to save Perrin. And then we also see that Perrin awakens his abilities as well, can channel and somehow is able to communicate to these wolves. So it's not just Moraine went on this quest to pick up these young adults to take them to this tower, not knowing which one's really the one. And what we're finding is that all of them seem to have some kind of power. And the one that was surprising that we haven't seen a lot out of for me was Rand. So Rand ends up in this room with an assassin, and she's got this door bolted down, right? And she says, you need like 10 men to break down this door. And he's had it. He wants out, and he starts ramming this door. And then he's ramming it so hard the whole building is shaking, and eventually he knocks it down. And that to me was like, whoa, okay, hold on. Was he channeling there? Or was the door just not as strong? Or did he pull up some kind of magical power that gave him the strength of like 20 men and he knocked down this door? They haven't really gone back to that, right?
Right.
So each one of these supposed channelers have some kind of power here that we're learning about slowly
so,
in tidbits.
so there's just from the lore, I don't think that Perrin is channeling anything really.
Mhm.
Each of them have like the books. The first books really revolve around those three: Rand, Matt, and Perrin, and what happens with them,
Mhm.
with them, and kind of develops out their story a lot, along with Egwin and Nynaeve, and
Yeah.
so yeah, they are it's I read the books a long time ago, and all of what you're saying is ringing really familiar to me. So I think they're probably following along at least the first book really well.
Mhm.
Well, maybe not really well. I need to reread the book and
So
watch, but I do know things you guys don't. So
well, thanks for not spoiling that, because as much as
Yeah.
you're spoiling the show, I don't want to necessarily know what's going to be coming out in the next few weeks. I will ask this though, because it's not clear to me, and I've watched the first 4 episodes twice. So I actually, once I got through episode 4, I went back and started over from the beginning again, because sometimes you miss things, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing that's not clear to me is channeling the only magical entity in this world, or are there other powers like we're seeing with Rand and perhaps
Matt
Perrin?
or Perrin.
Matt, Rand, and Perrin. Perrin with this ability to maybe, as you mentioned, like this werewolf type ability or something. Maybe are there other powers that are in the series outside of channeling, or is that kind of it?
So I think as far as magic goes, I
Mhm.
think channeling the one power, either the male side or the female side of it, is the only game in town as far as magic mojo goes. But there's lots of other stuff in the world,
Mysteries, if you will.
yeah, well, less well-known things. Like I can't remember exactly what Perrin's deal was,
Mhm.
but I don't think it has anything to do with channeling the one power.
Okay.
because you guys have mentioned it before, or they seem to have alluded to this, but touching the male side of the power has a corrupting influence.
Yeah.
And that's the whole deal with the it seems like they haven't revealed everything about the Dragon Reborn, and maybe not even the Wheel of Time itself.
Yeah, and they do touch on that corruption in a pretty serious way. Logain Alblar is the one guy. He's a self-proclaimed Dragon Reborn in the series, and they do bring him about as a guy that was kind of running around taking over kingdoms and stuff like that. Well, they capture him. They capture him while he's sleeping one night, and they it takes two Aes Sedai to control his power. And he's only like fighting back at maybe 50% of his strength. There's a scene in there where he kind of breaks out of that, and it becomes apparent how dangerous he is with this power. And there are scenes where he's hearing voices in his head and things like that. But to that point, as dangerous as he is, Moraine makes a comment in there that his power still is only a fraction, is barely anything compared to what the true Dragon Reborn's powers is going to be. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah,
they end up stripping him of his power.
So this is what the Wheel of Time is what I would classify as epic fantasy. In that shit's gonna get really rad. Yeah, we're talking. There's gonna be some end game shit in this. The longer this goes along, the more epic shit you're gonna see.
Huh. Yeah, and so far we've seen some pretty epic stuff, and that's why I've enjoyed it. Like for me, it's a 10 out of 10. It's a really great. They didn't cheap out on how they're presenting what channeling looks like, the effects of magic, and at the same time they're not overdoing it either. And people are dying. Like it's not like everybody gets to live. Like there's as we mentioned, you get attached to one Aes Sedai, and that person dies, and then their companion kills himself because he's that distraught about it. Like
it's
I said,
sort of
5 was depressing.
Sort of Game of Thrones like in that respect.
Yeah.
Very much.
It's not. Game of Thrones is a lot. That's a dark fantasy. That's where no one's safe.
Yes, this is epic, and I won't say that no one is safe. They haven't killed any of the main. It's not like to pivot just a little bit. It's not like The Expanse, where everybody's game to get killed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this isn't where Ned Stark's gonna die at the end of the first book.
Yeah,
your main characters are gonna be around
for a while.
Yeah, I mean, look at all those books.
Get going, Seth. Start reading those.
Right.
I read up to, I think, the Fires of Heaven. And that was like a 700-page book, and book 5 is where I stopped, and I was just like,
Linda's put up a picture of all the books in the series on the screen.
It's too dense.
So if you want to, if you don't want to read the books, I can definitely recommend the series. I'm enjoying it a lot.
I think I'm going to try giving the series another try, maybe via audiobook this time.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, we should probably.
Those first 3 books that I read are really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, we should probably move on. There's some other series that are out. Lost in Space is out, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. Have any of you watched it?
No, and I got disconnected from Lost in Space after the first season, so I do need to go back and kind of re-binge that.
Yeah, me too.
And get
I wanted to go back.
And that's not to say it wasn't good. I just there's so much that's come out, and Lost in Space just kind of fell below that. I'll blame The Expanse because that's kind of what I jumped into. After that, and I've been hooked on that. So
yeah, I want to go back. We did watch season 1 and 2. I just need to go back and kind of rewatch parts of season 2 again, just to refresh my memory, because it's been so long. But I heard that the kids in Lost in Space are so much older because of the pandemic delay for filming the next season, they aged quite a bit.
And how
So
kids tend to grow.
right. So it'll be interesting to see how they've changed. And then The Witcher's coming out soon, right?
Yeah,
That'll be
Yes,
fun
love
to
The
get back
Witcher.
into that.
that was a good show.
Yep. Linda and I don't know, Chris, have you been watching Star Trek Discovery as well?
No, I need to.
Okay.
That is
Yeah,
on my
this season's
to-do to start
really
today.
good. Really
Yeah.
I
good.
need to see season 2 of Lower Decks.
Oh, yeah, I
They
haven't
gotta
watched
have
that
all of
either.
that out by now.
Yeah, that's out. Let's see. What else is going on? Seems to me there's something else.
Let me look
out that we're-
here.
Oh, is the Expanse coming out soon?
Yep, The Expanse as well.
That's the other one. Yeah.
Is
So
this
there's
the last season they're doing of The Expanse? I think.
Let me look here. Because The Expanse is definitely sunsetted, so I don't remember if this is the last one or there's. Let me see. Season 6 looks like it might be the last one.
That is sad to me because there's a lot more book to go through.
yeah.
We'll
With
see if
the
they
opening up of
change that.
those wormholes, it seems like there's a ton of opportunity for stories. But
Yeah, 6 is the final series. They canceled it going forward.
maybe
Why, I don't
somebody
know.
else, maybe somebody else will pick it up.
Yeah, I hope so. That's been a thing the last few years. Is other companies will just pick it up and run with it. So hopefully that maybe HBO will pick it up or
HBO, sci-fi, maybe.
Well, and it comes with its own fan base already, so it's
It started on Sci-Fi, didn't it?
Did
Yep.
it?
Oh yeah, this one was.
Oh,
kicked
yeah.
already. This one was
Yep.
kicked and then picked up, and now it's been dropped again. So
Yeah, like why? It's so good.
I know.
Does it
I
it's-
don't
just
know.
not-
These
I
are
wonder
ones.
if it's. Yeah, I wonder if the production values are just too much to kind of keep up with whatever it's returning.
Yeah, because Bezos bought it for Amazon because he was such a huge fan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one where you would
That
think
would-
he's just
oh.
like, I don't care, keep throwing money in it.
You're
I want
right.
more. Like
I'll
here's
keep
Bezos, just
throwing
tell him
money
to
at
keep
it.
doing it.
When you got that much money, just fund
Yes.
it.
Right.
do it.
What else are you gonna do? You're gonna buy another mega yacht? Come on.
Right.
Two
You
more
should just be like,
seasons.
no, cancel next week's spaceship build.
Yeah.
I need to fund another 10 years of this.
Yeah.
Or just-
Right.
Or just replace everybody with robots.
Right.
There you go.
Call back.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh, and
that's hopefully
Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop. That's been out.
Fun.
I've watched the first 2 or 3 of that. If you've watched the anime, it is different. It's an adaptation of it. I've enjoyed it so far. I think the production is great.
It's a neat style. I
is.
have to say that for I know they're copying the anime and they did a good, the little bit of it that I've watched, they did a good job of it's a
Paying
it's a
respect
neat
to the
stylistic one,
animation.
yeah.
Yeah. And
I've-
go ahead, Seth.
I have heard from other people who've seen it that it is its own thing, and you need to
Yep.
appreciate it for being its own thing as
Yes.
opposed to
They're wrong.
looking for more Cowboy Bebop
Right. It's not a continuation
show.
or anything of that nature.
for the cartoon
If you've
anime.
watched the anime, then you know that it couldn't be a continuation.
Yeah,
But
Mm.
it is what it is. But I've enjoyed it. And if you've not seen the anime and the kind of unique anime that it was made out to be, you're going to really enjoy the style of how this is filmed, from the fight scenes down to a little bit of the humor and everything. I'm enjoying it a lot. I really am.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we're about time for today. So
well, we need to. I mean, we didn't really talk about a lot of the other shows, but today's question is what fictional universe that we've talked about today would you live in if you could, and why?
Yeah. So, well, the other shows are continuations. So most people, I hope, have already watched some of them. Wheel of Time is a new one for this year, but the rest, I believe, are kind of continuations. So
yeah.
of what I've seen so far, what world would I most want to live in? I will take any that don't involve space. and we chatted about this a little bit earlier, but all the space ones seem to have a lot of massive like casualties, deaths, and if you live on a space station, you could be blown out of the sky. If
Right.
so no to The Expanse, no to Lost in Space, maybe The Witcher, maybe The Wheel of Time.
What about Star
I
Trek?
could take either one of those.
Yeah, see, Star Trek's the perfect universe, isn't it?
Star Trek is I'd nope out of that one as well.
Really?
Well, I mean, take so you go forward to
It's a time period.
yeah, depends on the time period. If you go forward in the time period, you know, everything was in shambles, right?
Yeah.
You had the
Yeah.
great I forget
Burn.
what they called it. Yeah, the
burn.
great burn, the burn. Everything was in shambles. I don't want to live in that time period either. So to my point, right? There's a lot
Right.
of like these horrible things that happen in
Right.
the space dramas.
But,
Makes me hesitant to wanna go
personal
out to space.
transporters. Personal
I-
transporters, Chris.
It's not worth it. Okay. I'd rather
not
go up
worth it.
against a dragon in an epic battle and get burned alive than suffocate or get blown up in space. I just
All right.
Yeah.
you know
All right. Fair enough.
All right, so Chris is going fantasy, Wheel
Yes.
of Time, or The Witcher. Bill,
I think I've got to go Star Trek. That for
Really
me
wants
is
that
the
transporter.
end all be all universe. I would go there in a heartbeat.
you'd run the risk of being a red shirt.
Well,
no red shirts.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
thing.
I would even risk being a red shirt, but yeah, I would definitely do that. Personal transporters, you got food replicators, you
I'll
know.
give it, okay, there are some nice amenities. I will give you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I would do a day in Star Trek, no more.
yeah.
To a day.
Charles?
I'm a little more on the Star Trek. So, but for a while there, my understanding was, and I think it switches up from different Star Treks a little bit, but if you were a red shirt, if you joined the oh god, there goes
Security?
my vocab. Yeah, it was more out of boredom, and it was to do something better with your life, right? It
If you join the
wasn't
Federation,
yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't because you live in poverty, and the only way
Right.
out,
Right.
the only way to get away from your abusive father is to join the military.
yeah, no, they've eliminated poverty and all that kind of stuff.
And so, in that respect, I'd prefer that universe. Some of these were your. I was thinking about the Foundations universe. There's areas or planets and stuff there that I joined, but not the whole.
Not the whole empire. You wouldn't
Yeah,
live on
because
the. You wouldn't live on Trantor.
Well, but so if you're watching, yeah, but that's just the thing. If you're watching that where all the action's happening, I don't want to have anything to do with that.
So you want to be off in a quiet backwater world.
Pretending, waiting 2,000 years for a library to be built. No, that's not for me. But the other, yeah, but they had some nicer worlds.
Right. That's true. All right, Linda.
Which,
Yeah,
which are
Linda.
taking advantage of the others. I'm sure it's just,
Yeah.
I guess
Linda.
just don't put me in the low labor market. I want the high wager markets. That's all.
I want to be anywhere I can be. Oh, thank you, Bluebird. Rich and powerful, have lots of money, and have people that clean my house for me.
In what world? Just anyone is fine. as long as-
Whichever one can supply me with my needs.
Fantasy worlds, you can be a queen or something.
There we
Yeah.
go. I'll be a queen in fantasy world.
Huh. All right. All right. Well, Seth.
Oh man, I am on the fence because while on the one hand, Star Trek, yes,
Yes.
fantastic. We've got some fantastic quality of life improvements. Meanwhile, something like Wheel of Time, there's enough goofy stuff going on around there that if you put your mind to it, you could become a hero of some power and renown, no matter what, or enough effort, and you can
Mhm.
achieve some sort of personal power and not just die a peasant. But on the other hand, there's no Wi-Fi. Probably not.
No
Probably
computers.
not indoor plumbing wherever you live, unless you're
Right.
with the Aes Sedai or some other powerful government.
No internet, no social media,
Well, I'm
No.
okay with the no social media.
no
I'll
Pandora, no Spotify.
Well, that's why
Yeah,
most
see
of
that
these
that's
don't cover
that's
the
another problem
entertainment.
is no good no. The only music you get is the stuff that your local bard can play. And he
Yes.
sucks. It's just Freebird every night, all day, all night.
Right.
So
All right.
ultimately, I think I might go for Wheel of Time. Probably not The Witcher, because that one is, there's some nasty, scary stuff. And
Fair.
also, magic is pretty awful and limited, but at least there are fewer-ish monsters in Wheel of Time to randomly steal your skin and eat your liver.
True. Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, those of you out there listening in podcast land, go ahead and answer the question for us. Post a comment on our chat down below. If you had your choice of all the fantasy or sci-fi or even horror worlds.
No, that
although
we've talked about today. If I could choose from any
all
of
right.
the worlds, I could find one I would like a whole lot better.
All right. All right. Fair enough. So comment, let us know what you think, and we'll talk about it on our next show. And be sure to check us out on galacticdriftwood.space. Also check out our partner podcasts on synergynation.net. That's SYN nation.net. And short of that, we will see you again in a week where we'll have some fascinating content.
Well, aren't we going to have Stu back around to talk about
We
scary
are.
Christmas shit sometime soon?
We are.
Scary Christmas.
We're going to have Stu back on. We're going to do an episode on Krampus. We've kind of talked about Krampus in the past, but Krampus never gets old. Any kind of a demonic creature that puts misbehaving kids in bags, beats them with reeds, drowns them, and drags them to hell can't be all bad.
Right.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with that.
You can't.
No.
I'm pro Krampus.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you all. We will catch you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.